Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Talk. This is a show where we discuss the week in Humboldt, the local issues with local personalities. I'm Talvi Fried, your local host for the next hour. As California's fund to fix crumbling schools dwindles to nothing, lawmakers are negotiating behind the scenes to craft a ballot measure that would be the state's largest school construction bond in decades. But some beleaguered school superintendents say the money will not be nearly enough to fix all the dry rot, leaky roofs, broken air conditioners, amongst many other issues in the state's thousands of school buildings. And it won't change the system that they say favors wealthy, urban, left-leaning areas that can easily pass local bond measures to make needed repairs, versus schools that might have other issues stepping in their way to get those same bonds passed. Exactly how are Humboldt County's rural schools faring? Are their needs being met? What are the challenges and rewards of running a small rural school district? Joining us tonight, of course, we're going to be discussing rural school districts in Humboldt County. We won't only be focusing on what needs to be fixed. There's a lot of good there, I'm sure, that's going on within those school systems. And here we have three small district superintendents: Christy Ng from Big Lagoon Unified School District, Karen Ashmore for Mattole Unified School District, and Amy Goshen from Scotia Elementary. And welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. So let's kick this off. I know there's all these huge bonds going out. There seems to be a bit of political talk going on. I'm not sure. I like to start off with a lot of listeners aren't fully aware of what's happening. People who don't have kids or maybe live in, say, Eureka might see the school districts a little differently, because every school system seems to have its own issues, though there's one thing that seems to tie the rural school districts together, and that's that they face very similar issues and funding stream problems. So let's start off with Karen. And just what is the Mattole Unified School District going through right now, and how do you see the changes in California funding affecting that, or what's really gone on? Pretend I know nothing, because really I don't.
Oh, okay, so we are like a super rural district. We're about the most remote in California, practically, and we border the wilderness, and so we are, really distant from everyone else, and all of our closest districts are Ferndale and Southern Humboldt, and that they're about 45 minutes away. So we have two elementary schools and a high school, and right now we still have quite a bit of funding that needs to be spent in the next year that came through with COVID funding. So we're looking at, we're pretty stable at the moment, but looking into this decade, as the California has a $68 billion deficit right now. We're wondering, how much they're going to be cutting funding for education, things like that. So we're trying to tighten our belt and make the money that we do have, go for a long ways. And I know there are some bonds coming up for facilities, but we found in the past that it's really hard to get that money. Pretty much what we did in 2016 was we had our local voters. We passed a general obligation bond for $2 million, and we were able to build really needed facility for our high school, new buildings. The high school is looking good, but our elementary buildings, we have a range of buildings. we have a building that's 120 years old. Yeah, so that's our, one, we don't use it with students, but we do use that for our elementary office. And then we have buildings from the 50s. They're kind of starting to deteriorate. So we really have to look towards the future of how we're going to have good facilities for our students.
So, Christy, what would you say the bigger issues? What are the bigger issues that are going on at Big Lagoon? Uh,
Well, kind of like Karen said, our infrastructure, our buildings are, I'm new, I should say. I'm not even in this job a year yet. And I started working in the summer, and just it seemed like something new would happen every week that had to be addressed. And it was not surprising, but so like for instance, our boiler, sometimes that goes out, that heats our school, and it's ancient and big and clunky, and we have windows that are broken. We have single pane windows, a couple of leaks in the skylights, I would say. We have some really moldy unused portables that we need to get rid of. There's just, but I have to say our teachers and the students and the families, they're really great about supporting, at least, moral support and otherwise. But I would like to get heat in the cafeteria. There are some things that need to be done with the pipes. I mean, I just feel like I could go on, and yeah, the $68 billion shortfall, or budget cuts, it is nerve-wracking. It's really worrisome.
Yeah, imagining kids eating in a cold, moldy lunchroom sounds absolutely not okay. I Whether it's 100 kids or 10,000 kids, that is a question I want to go into later, which is what funding streams are working because of back during Obama era, the whole funding for school nutrition programs was there, and I'm wondering if that was, which we'll get to. We'll get to. I'm just curious if anybody experienced that was a good model for maybe to kind of copy and edit for future proposals. Though, Amy, how are things over in Scotia?
So I have a slightly different perspective. So we are in the town of Scotia, but our district boundaries are vast. We go down to Redcrest, we go east into Shively. So we have a large district, which is mostly rural, but as far as our boundaries, but the actual school building is in the town of Scotia. And as many people in Humboldt County know, Scotia was a privately owned town, which meant that the land that the school building was on was privately owned by the Pacific Lumber Company. And so we, as a school and as a building, we were taken care of by Pacific Lumber Company for a very long time. So if we had something happen as far as an electrical issue or a plumbing issue, we were able to call the town crew and they would come take care of it for us. And so when the reorganization happened with Palco, that all changed for us. And so one of the major first changes was that we were given the school building, and we needed to modernize it. And so typically a school would, sorry, my automatic light just went off, just a moment. Typically you would pass a bond for that. We don't have enough taxpayers within our boundaries, and where the town is privately owned, we didn't have enough homeowners to have enough bonding capacity to pass a bond. So we were able to use different means to be able to get funding to modernize the school. And then after that, we were given a gymnasium by the Pacific Lumber Company, and we're not able to use it. And so we've had to be creative, and we are currently getting ready to open our brand new gym that we've been waiting over 10 years for. So while rural, we have been able to get access to different streams of funding that other districts are not able to get, or maybe qualify for. So I'm kind of a little different, and we're a little different in terms of that compared to other schools in the area.
What are the streams of funding?
So we qualify if you don't have the bonding capacity in your district to be able to pass a bond, then you have no way to raise the money. So when you try to get funding for construction, public school construction, you typically have to do matching funds, and we wouldn't be able to raise that money within our community. And so we were able to qualify for financial hardship funding, which is basically a grant. And then because our facilities were not up to par, then we also qualified for facility hardship. And so that was another grant that covered the other 50% of our construction. So we've been doggedly working on this for a very long time and just not taking no for an answer. And finally, through a lot of relationship building and a lot of hard work, we've been able to secure the funding without having to pass a bond, which is not very common. A lot of school districts end up not being able to pass a bond, and then they're not able to do the upgrades they need to do.
Interesting.
It's very, yeah.
I am curious because when you say modernization, that is something that popped up over COVID, especially, and came to a forefront of people of schools issues, which was the technologic capacity to have a modern education. And I feel well, this is a two-part question. What are the technical abilities of the schools right now, and does that play into like the facilities bonds? Does a computer count? Does electric count? Does a wireless station, does that count for these bonds or other funding streams? And then the secondary part of that question is, are there alternative educations that the kids in the rural schools are getting that you think city kids don't, because they are in such a different environment than, say, like, Eureka is pretty city. I mean, there's forest here, but it's not. We can go to the corner market the same distance to the forest and walk through the forest within 30 minutes and not get lost. So it's a little different. Yeah, anybody want to cover that?
I can speak to that. What I was able to do about 10 years ago, in the first round of funding, it was called the BIG grant. It's the Broadband Infrastructure Improvement Grant. And it cost $2.2 billion to get fiber to us. And I had to go through the FCC to get it to go wireless from Ferndale to Point Bunker Hill, it's called, and then it comes into Petrolia with a big receiver. And then they ran 15 miles of fiber from Petrolia to the Honeydew School. So they're on poles along the road. And so it really, really improved the 21st century learning technology for the kids here to have good internet access. So that was a grant. And then there was a grant from the McLean Foundation that I was able to procure, a local group that got all of the kids' tablets, and that helped a lot, like to be able to, have their own personal device and Chromebooks. And so when COVID came around, actually, we were doing okay with our devices and our fiber Wi-Fi that we had at the school sites. But the problem was when we had to go to distance learning at the homes, they didn't have that connectivity. But one thing that we have that's sometimes an issue with our Wi-Fi is that We also have issues with electricity. PG&E goes out here all of the time. I mean, we can count on having a week where there's no power in the valley at all, but we have generators for that, so that helps. But there's a lot of still complications that happen with that being very rural. But definitely your question about do students get to have other experiences living here? And I say that's absolutely yes. They get to have really, really rich experiences here locally. Just the fact that they get to live in an area that's got so much natural, resources and whatnot around. So, yeah.
In response to what Karen was saying, she had to go out and get grants. And we in these smaller rural schools have to really work hard to get the money, where maybe in larger districts that might not be the case. But we really have to get creative and really find sources of funds in order to cover some of the things that our students need. And that's what resonated with me with what Karen said, is we do work hard and have to really go after that extra funds, those extra funds. We as well we're pretty well set up as far as technology, but same thing, our community wasn't necessarily, and so we as a school had what we needed, but when we went on distance learning, a lot of our families did not have what they needed.
And I wasn't at Big Lagoon when COVID was happening, but just like everybody here, the weather really affects our internet connectivity and our power. And so, and that's the same for the neighborhood, the Big Lagoon neighborhood. And it's interesting because we are on, the Rancheria is right there. And so I'll just say, I am learning about these different funding streams. And so I totally can see that it's not easy. I'm in the process of figuring that out right now. But, we're really lucky to have a lot of support from the tribes. And that really goes into, the enrichment of the students. They just being outdoors, first of all, it's is wonderful. But then, we have volunteers, grandparents, parents come in and teach about, baskets and acorns and things like that. And we're right there on the land. And so they're able to go out and, gather what they need in the forest. And it's, there are some things about very rural schools that are really hard. But, when you're in the middle of the day, seeing them outside and seeing them, with their little rain jackets on, going out to the lagoon, it's really kind of special. I'm really liking that part of it, but and I'm still learning the other part, the funding streams.
I was going to say, if I were stepping into the role that you have, Christy, I might be a little intimidated. I feel like, oh wow, that's a lot to step into, for sure.
A really good word. It's a really good word, intimidated. Yes.
Yes. Though also probably pretty rewarding. I mean, seeing the little ones enjoying their education when they do, even if they're cold, they still have the cute little jackets. So that's awesome. Though speaking of that, when we come back, we'll just take a moment, a quick break, and be right back. Let's talk about some weather issues at the school, because there's been a lot of talk about climate change and the effects it has for buildings that were made 100 years ago, say, and that they kind of aren't withstanding the changes that are occurring around. So we'll get to that right after this quick break. You're listening to Thursday. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. I'm Talvi Fried, your local host for the next, continuously 40 minutes. And I am here with Christy Ng from Big Lagoon Unified School District, Karen Ashmore from these are all superintendents, by the way, of the Mattole Unified School District, as well as Amy Goshen from Scotia Elementary. And we had just discussed what the bigger issues the smaller schools are facing right now, which it seems like it's slightly different, though I'm hearing lots of concern over infrastructure, funding streams, as well. I'm hearing a lot of positivity about the kind of specialized education that a kid in a rural community gets, which who wouldn't want to walk around the forest, you know? Like I wish somebody had taught me how to forage for food or all those cool things that tie you to the earth. It's pretty cool to hear that, though with infrastructure issues, a lot of them are caused because of the climate. We are in a rainforest, or some subtropic something type of rainforest. You're all educators. I'm sure you know better than I do. And with that comes a lot of issues. There's a lot of these old buildings are made from wood, which does last a long time, especially redwood out here. One of those fun things, redwood lasts longer than steel and gets less warped if treated right. Though I'm hearing that a lot of the schools have parts of buildings that are no longer really not the best environment to be educated in, especially if the boiler's not working, etc., like that. But one of the big issues I've seen is that, or read about, is that people don't know what to do with the weathering of these buildings, because rising ocean tides are creating kind of more of a boggy environment. I'm not sure exactly what's happening at all your schools, but that's why you're here to tell us. Are you seeing differences with, especially the projections that have been put out by the county about where the tides are going to end up being in, say, 50 years? Are there plans to use those projections in future? Well, this is going to be an issue, or are you already seeing issues? Start off with Karen.
Well, where we're located, we're not really affected by the tides. We are not quite affected by being in a tsunami zone. For the Petrolia school, we're up on a hill, so I think it's pretty safe there. So, but as far as it seems like we've always had this cycle. I've been in Humboldt County for 33 years. We've always had this cycle where we get these storms like El Nino and they call it now the atmospheric river. We used to call it Pineapple Express, where we would get these back-to-back storms, for 2 weeks, high winds. And so, but to me, it does feel like, last winter was pretty major. We, seeing like we really got a lot of snow, which is kind of unusual to get as much as we did. So, that's definitely a factor, that affects education, because we've got students in school during those months. And we have a bus that runs 15 miles each way between the towns of Petrolia and Honeydew. We have slides that happen, trees come down. There's, we had a huge maple tree come down overnight, luckily, that just missed the classroom. So, we had to call in tree company to come and take it, down just to be safe. So there's things like that to be expected, to expect the unexpected. It's pretty much just, and then go with it and do the best we can to, keep everything rolling.
We also don't have to worry so much about the tides, but with us, it's more the rivers and some of the rural roads. So we have students who are out gravel roads, and they're not passable during the winter. And so we have to have parents who will bring their students into town to be able to catch the bus. And then during the summer, there'll be a summer bridge across the river so that, and into the fall so that our families can use the bridge and it's a shorter distance for them. So we have that is more of an issue for us here. And I know when I've been actually at Scotia School for 30 years. This is my 30th year. And when I was in the classroom, I had students who would come to school muddy because they had to get to the river, row a boat across the river, hop on a dirt bike, ride a dirt bike to the bus stop just to get to school and do it all over again to get back home. We had students up until recently who were using the ferry to get across that the sheriff's department was operating. And so that's more what we deal with. So during the winter, those students may not be making it in, to school for a bit. And we have to, figure out ways to help them and work around that.
We have quite a few students who are out of district. So as long as Highway 101 is good toward, to the south, like near McKinleyville, and to the north up, Klamath area, we're okay. But again, the slides are something to consider. We don't have a bus driver right now, so we are very dependent on parents getting their kids to school. And as for weather and waves and everything, we're high enough where we don't have to worry about that flooding and everything right now, but the constant rain and just being right on the ocean, just that salty air and everything, everything corrodes, like the doors, handles, the locks, and things are hard to open and shut. And so, and I would also say just the weather, the constant wetness is really tough on, the gutters, the siding, all of that. So that is definitely something that we're looking at and considering.
There's a constant rotation of rot repair. Every vacation, every summer, it's just there's constant rot repair on our buildings. We have here in Scotia, we have the old original Boy Scout Hall that is now part of the school. And when I first started teaching here, that was actually a classroom, 2 classrooms. And so now since then it's not FILDAT compliant and all of those things, but it's still part of our campus and we use it for storage. And it's the same idea of one of those old buildings. It doesn't have the best heat, doesn't have the best plumbing, doesn't have the best, water pipes in and out. But it's still something that we have here, take care of, and utilize for storage.
So I wonder that sounds tough, having to wake up and, cross a river and dirt bike over, even if that was a while ago, and now, maybe there's a snowplow or something to get kids to the school. Though with all of those struggles, then the kids show up to a school that might not have heating that day. It might not have electricity. The generator's got to be turned on. With all of that going on, how are the students' education coming along? And what are the comparison factors even? Because I feel like that would, they call it the ACE. Is that not an ACE in and of itself, just not having a facility that functions, or the difficulties of getting to school? I'm not sure. Though how is their education going, and how many hours per day? That's a lot of time just getting things going, to be able to sit in a classroom and learn, or to walk around outside and learn. Yeah, so how are the kids doing?
I would say our kids
I think they're really happy to be at school, because one thing is social isolation, especially if they don't have a big family, if they're the only kids. So I think, they're pretty resilient actually. And I think also that it makes them strong. We've had the physical fitness test we've been doing with our kids, and they all do so well on it. It's amazing, these kids. They're really in good shape. So I'd say they're pretty healthy. It's great for them to come to school because we can give them, healthy meals, and, they get a good education. I think they really get a lot of personalized individual attention too, because we have smaller classes, and they get to be almost like family. Sometimes a little too much like family, like siblings, because they know each other like through the years. So, there's that sometimes, but all in all, it really makes a strong bond. And I feel the kids, we know their learning styles, and we, make it work for, the families and the kids and everyone here.
I agree with Karen. Sometimes when you think about what the kids go through just to get to school, and they're excited to be here. And I think small rural schools, one thing they have to offer that other schools don't, and everybody says it, and it sounds so cliche, like we're like a family, but it is true. You get to know the students, and the students get to know you, and the students and the families know that we are here for them. And I think that's what makes our small school so special. I don't think education has necessarily suffered from, say, power outages or such. I don't know about you others, but I'm sure you do the same thing. We still have school, and we make do, and we have, lanterns, or we go outside, and we continue on and do the best we can, and still provide an education for the kids, regardless of the weather or what's going on outside.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you, especially the family part. At our school, we have 2 classrooms. It's TK through 3rd, and then 4th through 8th. So they are in the same class together for years. And then, some of them actually are related. And so, when I first got there, I was like, oh, 20 students, what's the behavior going to be? But they like fight like siblings. So it feels very much like that. And they know each other so well. And I just have to say our teachers are incredible at educating, a diverse age range. And I think they kind of have fun. It's kind of a novelty, at least in the beginning, when the power's out and we get to, be all cozy. But I also think that it does help them understand that life's not always going to go your way, and you have to keep doing what you do. It doesn't mean we're going to just stop and do, take a break or whatever. And I appreciate that about the kids and the staff out there.
I bet all of those kids know how to turn on a generator, and I didn't learn how to do that until I was in my early 20s. So that's impressive right there. I do want to go just back a little bit, because I feel like that the healthy meals programs, and especially in this community, that when I was a kid, it was very, very different. If you didn't bring your lunch, you got a big scoop of peanut butter between 2 pieces of white bread and a thing of milk, and you were shamed, and it was not okay. So that was the food given to kids who couldn't either afford lunch, to buy lunch, or who forgot their lunch. And it is very, very different now. I've noticed kids get breakfast, often they'll get lunch. I believe that started happening late 2000s, well, somewhere around there, somewhere in the 2000s. I noticed that funding for healthy meals started happening, and people sort of rallied around that. Maybe because, like me, they were angry about their childhood and those gross not peanut butter and jelly, just peanut butter sandwiches. And they decided never to let kids ever have to go through that again. because I feel strongly about it. How are you supposed to focus when you're hungry? It just doesn't make any sense. How are you supposed to be healthy and pass those physical education tests, if you don't have the proper nutrition? Their bones are growing. They're children. They need that. So that seemed to work somehow, at least in Humboldt County. And would love to hear some insight for those who were part of that or watched the changes of that occur. And if you think that there could be something within that model that could help with an infrastructure change as well.
I'd say we're in a really, really good place right now, and it's only been 2 years. This is the second year of universal meals. Anybody gets a free lunch, any student, no matter, if they qualify or not, which takes away all of the stigmatism and anything that has to do with like a shame of, you're the kid that gets the free lunch. Everybody, we have, I'd say 90% of our students get breakfast and lunch every day now. And it's just really improved in a lot of ways, because it's a California program. And I know I have friends in other states where it's still back like it was 20 years ago, white bread and peanut butter sandwiches or whatnot. So we're really in a great place with that in California. But I must say that one thing, it is a little bit hard on the staff because we're finding ourselves preparing, so many meals, but we're going with it and it's working. So I'm really happy that California has universal meal program now.
Prior to the universal meal program, we had qualified for the community eligibility provision based on our unduplicated people count, our low income population percentages. And so we were able to provide free lunches to all prior to universal meals. And so we kind of had the warm up to it. And so we are fortunate enough to be able to provide breakfast and lunch. And then we call it a super snack in our after school program. And it's basically a smaller than what you'd get at home supper, but we call it supper or super snack. And so our kids can get 3 meals a day for free plus snacks. And they need that. We had a little guy the other day who said, I'm just hangry. And so, you cannot learn if you are hungry. You cannot learn if you are hungry. And so we are the same as Karen. Most of our students get breakfast every morning and eat lunch. And then we've got 120 out of our 190 students who go to our after school program, and they get our super snack in the evenings as well before going home. So yes, we definitely are feeding the kids and they're hungry.
Same here, all of that. And with our 20 kids, the majority of ours have breakfast and lunch and snack at school as well. And I was just really amazed when I got to the school. Everything is scratch cooked, and I peeked in the kitchen, and the breakfast for tomorrow is gingerbread muffins and a smoothie, and it's really good quality food, and we're encouraged to buy local and organic, and it is pretty amazing. But then, like Karen said, our wonderful cook, Mandy, was sick, and I had to cook, and that was like terrifying. I don't know how she does it. And one day it went really well, and then the next day it did not. So I was lucky to be able to experience what she does every day. But yeah, I really value the local and organic aspect to the food buying program.
I wonder if, I know it's now a California initiative, which I didn't realize. I thought it was just something cool that Humboldt County mostly did, but I know other counties have adopted it. And I just thought it's because we're all cool out here. And I love that you said 20 years ago. Yes, that's when I was in elementary. No, it wasn't much longer ago than that. Much longer. No, we're going to take a break and we are talking about the small rural school districts of Humboldt County, the issues that they face, and also some of the tribes that they have, as well as some of the cool perks that the kids get for going to such a school in a rural spot. Go for walks in the forest and actually have an education out there. That's pretty cool. Be right back on Thursday Night Talk. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. I'm Talvi Fried. I'm here with Christy Ng from Big Lagoon Unified School District. Christy Ng, the superintendent of Big Lagoon Unified School District. Karen Ashmore, school superintendent for Mattole Unified School District, as well as Amy Goshen, superintendent for Scotia Elementary. And it's one school building, but it's for Scotia, but
we're a single school district. So it's Scotia Union School District, and our elementary school's official name is Stanwood A. Murphy Elementary School. Yes, one building.
One building, many grades.
Correct. TK through 8, yes.
Which is interesting. I always wonder, like, how does that work out? But it seems like everyone's expressed just the kids all feel like siblings. They, learn together, play together, grow together, which that can be a huge perk too, that feeling of connectedness in your community. We are obviously talking about the rural school districts of Humboldt County. We just spoke about the healthy meal initiatives and how that's worked out. It sounds really, really well for everybody. So now let's see if we can get some like infrastructure stuff happening, because it seems like all those rural school districts have a lot going on. Without the population to kind of fund everything, I'm not exactly sure how it works. I'll ask this question first, and if we have time, we can go into differences before and after COVID, though we have about 9 minutes until the round robin starts. So let's ask this question, which is, what can the community do? Are there measures that you would say they should read up on? Are there groups that they should be part of? Are there, like, is there this whole renegade construction group of guys and gals that go and learn, like, oh, you have wood rot, we're going to come and fix it right now for the kids? Is there anything like that happens that somebody who's just living in this community, go to work, go home, like, what can I actually do to help out? Don't all speak up at once. Let's start with Amy.
I would say if you have special talents or time or just a helpful heart, to reach out to your local school, because we can always use the help. We have large campuses, so between keeping the weeds down and weed eating and gardening and such, to painting or fixing rot, we can always use help. So we rely on our community a lot, and we have great parents, and I think that's part of the small school benefit also, is the fact that the parents feel that they're connected and they're part of the school, and so they're more than willing to help out when needed. So as far as to community members, I would tell them to reach out to the school. We get phone calls often, just like, hey, I do this or I do that, is that something that service that you would benefit from? So schools don't have necessarily, rural schools, a lot of extra funds to throw around, and so if somebody in the community is willing to volunteer and help out, we are willing to work with them.
Cool. Christy.
I agree. I think that being rural, it's hard to get company, like the the oven person to come up and fix things. And, people are they're really great, but they're a little bit reluctant because it is so far. So, yeah, just letting your school know what it is that you can do, even if you don't think it's really that important, there is definitely a need. And yeah, like Amy said, I am grateful the families at our school, they chip in, they pitch in, they're really I mean, I don't know how the school would run without them.
Karen?
Yes, I agree with Christy and Amy also. Like, our community is so great. Parents, families, just people that don't even have kids at this school, or, will help in a lot of different ways. Like, we have like a lot of groundskeeping things to do in the gardens. And like, for instance, our high school generator was an old diesel generator and we just couldn't get it to start. And a parent came by and he knew the part to order, went ahead and ordered the part, came by, replaced it. We got him a reimbursement for it, but it was like, it would have taken us weeks to get somebody to come out to fix it, because it's like an hour and a half for them just one way to get out to our schools to do any kind of repairs. So it's so wonderful when people are able to help. We've had family that has equipment, like, get like the mud slides off the road so the bus can get through, things like that. Yeah, it's amazing. We, are so thankful to have that, like, where, there are cases where we do have to wait for things, but there's a lot of times where we'll get it fixed. People will help.
So I'm curious what because I feel like there's before COVID, now there's after COVID, and then what is the future looking like for rural schools in Humboldt County? What are the things you need most to get done to really help the kids succeed? Christy?
I think being able to come to a school that looks nice, that's well cared for, I think that's a really great first step. And so I would say just money for maintenance, just maintaining what we have and fixing what needs to be fixed. That a way to easily get the money and spend the money. I think, they were saying the $68 billion budget deficit, that's a huge thing. But yeah, for us out there, just being able to maintain what we have, I think. Yeah.
I think funding for infrastructure, especially for rural schools, I follow a lot of public school construction project things around the state just because we've been in the middle of one, and to see what some of these schools in more urban areas have as far as the facilities is just incredibly amazing. And then to see some of the school buildings that our kids are in here in Humboldt County and other rural areas. And so there's such a difference between just the facilities. And so I think more funding and the ability for more funding for smaller schools. I know in the community I live in that my children and I went to school in here locally, they're really having trouble getting a bond passed, and the district really needs it, but the community just isn't quite sold on it. And so I would say to the community, like, you may not have children anymore in the schools, and you might be retired and might not want to, have to pay for that bond, but, our kids are our future, and they need a safe place to learn where they feel proud to be there because it's well kept and it's structurally sound. And in order to keep students in schools and not going to other school districts that have, those types of facilities, we need to, get our rural schools fixed and taken care of.
Karen?
Yeah, I would say that definitely we've been patching up our old buildings for so long, and they're just like at the point where they just need replacement or just major gutting and upgrades, the funding just isn't there. And these are our children that they just definitely deserve to be in facilities that are warm and safe. And I don't know, it's like I wonder, I've seen some things like so there's schools that like are like just, you go down to the Bay Area or see these like campuses that are just like absolutely, unbelievably great. And then I know there's even there's even worse places in California. I've seen articles of schools that have buckets in like 5 buckets in a classroom, and mold and walls that are just buckling out, so there's like such a wide range, between the poorest and the richest. We need to at least ensure that every school meets certain standards and has the funds to do that in California, or in the whole United States, actually. It should be a right for students.
So we are about to go in the round robin. I did, well, I guess I will ask, and you can answer it in the round robin or not, though. How easy or difficult has it been to keep teachers continuously working in your schools? Though it's your 3 minutes, you 2.5, 3 minutes. You can talk about whatever you would like to talk about. If you want to continue the rural school districts with your own personal thoughts that you want people to take with them, by all means. Let's start with Karen. You got 2.5, 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I would say, like, when it comes to staffing, we're really lucky that we actually have retention of our teachers. We're not low on any teachers at all, but our bus driver is retiring in a week.
And you cannot have ours.
And that's like a major, I know they're saying a lot of bus drivers are retiring now, and there aren't people to fill that position. And that is, worrisome. We have some vans to use, but it's not like the bus. And then also it's a little harder to find work in other, like for the cafeteria and positions like that, for aides and subs. I find I sub a lot, so there definitely are some staffing shortages here that we experience. And I know that there's major staffing shortages throughout the state. So we need more people to go into education, for careers.
Our staffing, we're fortunate that we keep our staff members and we don't have much turnover. We did have a big round of retirees a few years ago, and so we did do a lot of replacing, so our staff is younger. And so I don't foresee us having much turnover in the near future. A lot of our retirees come back and substitute for us because, as Karen said, we have a tough time finding substitutes. And we also, we actually are very fortunate to have 2 bus drivers. But as Christy said before, not a bus to run. If you're in a rural district and you can't run a bus, kids aren't going to come to school. We have to have buses, and it's bus drivers. There is a shortage, and I'm very fortunate to have 2. That's why I said to Karen, you can't have ours. So our staffing is fine as far as our teachers and our support staff. As Karen said, some positions are more difficult to fill. But I think for us, it's about relationships, and it goes back to that family piece. And we make work a place people want to be. The kids want to be here and the adults want to be here as well. And in doing that, then they come to work happy and they leave happy. And sometimes in a bigger school, I think people maybe don't necessarily get their needs heard or their needs met, but in a smaller school, the staff can get their needs met and they feel like they are heard. And so that, I feel like that keeps our staff constant.
Yes. We got a grant for an electric bus, and then we outfitted the plug-in station so it could accommodate the voltage, or so we could plug in the bus. And we just need a bus driver, and that is such a huge deal. I have been searching high and low, and so I'm really jealous that you have two, Amy. We would like one, but yeah, just the staffing is, a lot of the staff is new out at Big Lagoon, except the teachers. They've been there and they are incredible, and they're very connected to the students and the families. And I feel lucky that they're definitely an asset out there. And like I said, I've been blown away at the outdoor education opportunities that that they have. They actually are out there utilizing that. And small schools, sometimes they aren't thought of so highly because, like, why do you have a school open for 20 kids? But they really do have a place in our landscape, and they really do serve students and families in a unique way.
There's something to be said about a neighborhood school, because we have a district about 1.5 miles from us, next door in Rio Dell, and they have a very strong school culture, and so do we. And so small schools are important, and I agree with Christy on that one.
So just one last question. Most of the schools seem like it's grade school through middle school. Where do the kids then go to high school?
Our students in Scotia, we're in the Eel River Valley, and so our students, typically the feeder high school would be Fortuna High. And some students go to Fortuna High School, some students go to Ferndale High School also.
Ours usually go to McKinleyville or Arcata.
And then the Mattole does have.
Yeah, we have a high school. The closest high school is an hour in each direction, south and north. So it's really important to keep our high school here for the students who live here.
Right. It's interesting to think about, the Mattole is, so far away from this, Big Lagoon. That's quite a drive to go stand up paddleboarding on the lagoon. Though all these kids do end up going to one of the high schools within the major cities. They then might go to College of the Redwoods. They might go to Cal Poly. I am curious about the data on that because, it's with such a tight-knit community, do you start getting like the multi-generation happening? And it sounds like it. It sounds like there's just, 30, 40 years ago, the parents went to the same school in a lot of cases. And I find that absolutely interesting. Though that's pretty much our show. I want to thank everyone so much for being here and giving everybody the rundown on rural schools in Humboldt County. That's exciting. You're in charge of the next generation of Humboldtians. And they'll be wise in the ways of the forest and also wise in the way of tech, which I was surprised to hear. So thank you, Christy Ng, Superintendent for Big Lagoon Unified School District, Karen Ashmore, Superintendent for Mattole Unified School District, Amy Goshen, Superintendent for Scotia Elementary. I appreciate you all so much. I'm Talvi Fried. This is Thursday Night Talk. We will be back next week with another Thursday Night Talk, probably holiday season themed. If you have topics or suggestions for this show, please email us at kzzh@accesshumboldt.net, and the show will replay Friday evening, 8 p.m. right here on KZZH 96.7 FM. You can watch the show on Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. Just search Access Humboldt or Thursday Night Talk. As well, we will be playing on broadband cable TV, actual TV stations, which is fascinating to me. Maybe one day you'll see me on a major streaming channel. Until then, if you have, like I said, any ideas, message me, kzzh@accesshumboldt.net. If you want to help out the community and go fix some of the issues at these schools, please reach out to the people on the show, because they can use your help. And 2 schools here are looking for bus drivers. The people looking for a solid gig, here you go. Cheers. See you next week.